Hey everyone, this is Lisa Baudouin. Welcome to Lisa's chat room. Today is November 19th. It's a Tuesday. It's very early in the morning. I got to get going, but I thought I'd share this vid with you really quickly on how I am working with my clothing that has chemicals in it and how I get those chemicals out. But before I begin, I have to disclose I'm not an expert in anything, so anything I share with you, if you try it, use it, or buy it, you do so at your own risk and peril. Also, two, I'm not affiliated, endorsed, or reimbursed by any company or product that I talk about in my videos. And then finally, if you get something from this video, please like, subscribe, and share with friends and family. Okay, I'm in my very messy basement right now, but I decided I don't care. I want to get this out there. I do find that people are having a hard time getting the chemicals out of their clothing. And what I'm going to talk about here is, first I'm going to talk about that, have a conversation, and then I'll talk about the wash machines at the end here, especially the Zeny Double Tub and then my Magic Chef. So I will go through them. But basically, I want to explain why it's so tough to get this out. So in my research, I found that some of the areas where we buy our clothing products or our cloth type products, really, every product, really, if you think about it, there is some type of a synthetic preservative being put into them. And it started with probably all of it, but we just weren't aware of it. And to me, it kind of feels like we've been conditioned to accept it, which is very scary to me because people do accept it. And most of the time when I talk to people, unless they have an allergy, they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm not crazy. I have this sensitivities and I can't help it. And they are due to formaldehyde, EDTA, dimethicone. So they're adding things into these products. And what they're adding is what's called a preservative. It is a cluster group of chemicals that preserve whatever it is they're selling. And so when you look at clothing, let's just take a look at hats, shoes, socks, coats, tennies, nylons, anything like that. Anything that is actually like a cloth type fabric, zippers. Those things are being treated with these chemicals to preserve the product. The product is coming overseas usually. And so the areas are dousing the products into these chemicals and then they heat them up and they iron them in. So what happens is it becomes a resin type material. However, it's gluey and sticky in a way, but it's also more like a plastic. So if you think about a plastic, if I take this bottle and I take a piece of sandpaper and I start like this with it, it's going to come off and it's going to come off as dust. And that's what happens with the cloth. So wherever you are, doesn't matter. If you put on something brand new that has these chemicals in it, the chemicals, they slough off, they dander off, and they get into everything. It is a lot that's in these products. And that's the problem for me because what will happen, and this happens with everybody, it happens with you. Say you are going through this process of, this is my chemical-free closet. So everything in here doesn't have any chemicals on it. It's very clean. I make sure of it. I go through this process that I'll talk about, but it's all chemically free. Say I go buy a blouse and I put it in there and I don't wash it. Well, what's going to happen is whatever's on that blouse, it's going to dander off automatically the minute I move it. The minute it's sitting there, it's starting to dander off. I don't know if there's a chemical process where it does this as it's part of the process of breaking down. It seems that way, but it doesn't matter. What happens is, say you buy a pair of slacks and you're sitting on your couch. It's going to get on your couch. Say you go lay in your bed. It's going to get in your bed. It's everywhere. If you put a hat on your head that you haven't washed, it gets all in your hair. And actually, I've had my situations where I had a hat on and I didn't have it off enough, and I had to wash my hair over and over and over again to get it out, whatever the chemical is. And again, I believe it's just a preservative. Now, why is it being put into our clothing? Well, the first reason is because whatever is being shipped here is coming across an ocean and it's got to travel. So it's coming across this wet ocean, and so what they're doing is they're preserving it. The other part of this is we wanted it. Back in the day when I was very young, we had cotton material and people wanted wrinkle-free. So then polyester was made, nylon was made. And so all these plastics, we're using chemicals, oils, and things like that in combination with plastics and stuff. And a lot more than I even understand, but I understand that much. And so that's part of the problem, is that it's a resin type plastic. So The one part is it's sort of sticky in the clothes. And the other part is it danders off in the clothes. So it's a nightmare for me or anyone that has a sensitivity because it's going to go everywhere. But the other part of this is it's bombarding you and you don't even know it if it's in your items. And I would say about 70% of the time, you're buying items that these chemicals are in. And as a matter of fact, like I said, we've been sort of conditioned. You go to the store and you go to buy yourself a set of bifocals. Go just look at the bifocals at the local store and turn them around. Does it say a warning? Warning, this can cause cancer, this can cause endocrine disruption, this can cause issues. And we buy them. Why? Because there's nothing else to buy. Personally, I think we need to get away from any imports and we need to start making our own stuff in our country with really high standards like we used to. There was a real huge trend back in 2000 and the early 2000s to remove a lot of the chemicals out of these products. And I know this. I know that there are companies that really push to get a lot of the chemicals out, but it's really difficult. And I have had conversations with the EPA. Imagine we've got trillions of products coming in from all over the world. And it's difficult to monitor everything. From the conversation I had, these chemicals, this is a whole new ball game. One of the things I do is I try not to buy products from overseas anymore if I can help it, which is tough because we buy imports mostly. But the other thing is you can buy hypoallergenic. That's very expensive too. And so sometimes it's just best for me to buy the clothes that are there and to treat them. Now, the other two things I stopped using are nylon. And, like I would make my own pillows. Well, now what I do is I don't use the zipper anymore. I've taken and gotten rid of the zippers and I'm making my pillows that have buttons on them. Because what happens is the chemical gets into that nylon and it doesn't come out. And even if I've cleaned it, I had one pillow where it was fine and then somebody sat on it that came over and that chemical from their pants got into the zipper again. And it was a nightmare. And I'm like, I'm tired of this. So there's certain things avoiding, I should say, so that I don't have to deal with it anymore because it is tiring. I also make special lining for my pillows, by the way. And for my couch, I have the special lining as well. There's certain things I do because if it gets into that material, it's really difficult to get out. So what I'm suggesting, and the problem is if you don't have these chemical sensitivities, it's understandable because you don't sense them. However, you are an adult if you're watching this, I hope, and you're thinking about this, you're becoming more focused and you're going to make a plan. You're going to say, I am not going to let this come into my home. Now, a friend of mine, I saw her the other day and I could really smell the chemicals on her. And I don't mean that in a mean way. They're using products that they're not aware that it's bad and it smells good to them. To me, it smells like chemical. But what I told her is we walk through, and I haven't walked through all the stuff with her. I just suggested you might want to at least either do two things. One, reduce the laundry soap that you're using, or do an extra rinse of your wash machine. So one or the other, or both, to get some of that out because there's a lot in it. And the idea is to reduce your chemical exposure. Now, the other thing is when I buy chemicals to use in my laundry, I don't mix them together. And part of that is because these chemicals are event driven. In other words, the chemicals that you use when they mix together, they cause a reaction. So oftentimes I will not mix things together. To me, it doesn't make any sense. When you buy a product, say you buy this product here. Now, I very rarely use this, and I was trying it with the laundry soap, and I'm not sure. I don't think I like it. I think it's causing me a problem, maybe. I don't know. It takes a lot to test things for me. But the point is when you look at this product and you look at the ingredients within this product, they're pretty good, straight ingredients. They're pretty good ingredients, and this is fragrance-free. I also buy fragrance-free things. The reason is when you look at these ingredients, they're clustered together. They won't appear that way because they're literally put in by weight. Most weight to least weight. Usually it's called a bill of materials. Actual chemicals inside. It's part of commercialization. But the point I'm trying to make is within all these chemicals, you can pick them out and put them into a cluster group. And the first cluster group would be the purpose of the product. The second would be the preservative. What's keeping this product so it doesn't break down? And I think what's happened is this is old. And, you know, I had it in my cupboard for I don't know how long. But look at it. It's kind of yellowed. So I believe what's happened is this is broken down. But my point is most preservatives, what will happen is it will make it so the product doesn't break down. So you've got your purpose, you've got your preservative, and then you've got everything else. Your fragrances, your additives, your fixatives, all this stuff goes in there. And do you really need it? Do you really want perfume? And maybe you do, maybe you like that. But the thing is the chemicals that are in laundry soap are not flowers, the stuff that makes it smell good. It's a chemical that's making it smell like a flower. So, or make sure that you're buying a detergent that's actually using an oil of the flower or an extract of the flower, because otherwise you're just putting a chemical on. So look at the chemicals that you're using. Now for me, I hardly ever use borax once in a while because borax is very, very strong and caustic. Okay, they're all caustic. In other words, they cause reactions, and too much is not good. But borax is the worst. It's deadly. If you eat that, you will get very, very sick and possibly die. So, for example, when I wash my dish towels, I never use borax, ever, because I don't want to put any kind of caustic material on my dish towels. So that's a point I'm trying to make here too, right? So anyway, looking at your laundry detergents, if you just look at them and see the cluster groups like I see them, that will really help you. And then just make that decision and say, you know what, I'm not going to buy something like this. I want to reduce it. That's what we need to become, reductionists. We're never going to get chemicals out of our lives. Not 100%, not anymore. But we can reduce and try to get the most out. And the real reason for all of this isn't because I'm sensitive, which, yes, that's part of it. But the other part is I have grandchildren. And I don't want them to have children that have ADHD. I don't want them to have children that have mental or physical issues. And that is the main reason, because that's how I got this chemical sensitivity. I was bombarded. There was a few things going on, and I ended up being bombarded with a chemical, and my body said, what the hell is that? And it caused this sensitivity. So, point I'm trying to make is I have to go through this specific process, and I will continue to do it. Even if I lost these sensitivities, I would always do this. And this is a good practice. Now, I use these two washers to treat the new clothes, especially. And they both have really good pluses and really good minuses because they are not perfect as far as doing certain things. So let's just talk about it. What I do is when I get something brand new, I spray it down with my distilled vinegar in the bottle, and I just leave it sit in here without water, and I let it sit for at least a day. If not two, I'll spray it down again. I always use my gloves, by the way, and I always stand way far back, and I make sure everything's well ventilated. So I do that, and then I let it sit, and then I wash it. So right now I'm washing a blanket that I bought, and it's just sitting in there. And so now I let it soak, and I'll let it soak for a couple of days, and then I will wash it, and I will do this at least 3 times. I would just say if you're not sensitive, do it at least 3 times. One good thing about this is it's not using a lot of water. And the thing is with this machine, that's as far as it fills up. So the good about this machine is it's easy to use and it's small and compact. The bad about this machine is it doesn't fill up very far. It doesn't have an agitator. And that filter, replace that once, it cost me $30. And also the nice thing about this though as well, because I'm going through the points of it, it does have a nice feature in the back where you unscrew it and you can get to any lint that's in the filter pump. But I have literally had to take this apart and redo the filter pump. So, you know, I know what I'm doing. I've practiced enough. I'm just that way. But it's not that hard. You just pop the back off and you just undo these closing units. I can't think of what they're called. And I actually changed them out and I just used regular tighteners. These things right here. I just used these instead of what they had on there. And it works perfectly fine. But the lint can get in there. So that's kind of a pain too. The other negative thing is and maybe it's positive to you, you can't have the lid open when it's running. Not even in the wash cycle. It doesn't allow you to do that. So you have to have it closed. So you close it. You've got your panel here. So let's go through it. You've got your functions here. You've got soak, wash, rinse, and spin. This is your time delay. If you want to delay it, you can, which I never do. Large, medium, and small. And that's on a large, by the way. So that's about how much water you get, about half the tub. And then you can set it for hot, warm, or cold, which that's nice because it will run hot in your rinse as well. And then quick, bulky, or spin only. And then here is a control lock and an extra rinse. I really have never figured out the control lock. I apologize. Maybe one day I will sit down and figure it out. Maybe it has to do with why I can't open it when it's running. But I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. And then the extra rinse and then the on-off. So really simple to use. And you just program it how you want. And then you just hit start. Now, one of the things you see, I got a board down there. You have to keep it even. Obviously, you have to center these, and I used a level to get it that way. So the thing is it's not going to wash it really well because it doesn't have an agitator in the middle. So that's this one. That's the Magic Chef apartment size washer. I'll put the link in the description below. The second one is this Zeny Dual Tub. Now, I happen to love this. This is really great. If you're going to do one or the other, do this one. And this is more manual, though. You've got the wash over here. You've got the rinse over here. And I'm going to go up here. I've got it up here so it just slides down. I didn't know where else to put it. This made the most sense, and I don't mind climbing up and down. It's good for me. So here you've got your tub, and let's close this. All right, so this is what it looks like here. You've got two outlets, so you can put the water, hot water and cold water here, but you have to use the smaller attachments, and I don't because I have my hose there. So my hose, I just use it. It's no big deal. And actually my hose, I suggest you do that too. Have a hose on there instead of just a faucet, because what I do is once I'm done washing in here, I'll rinse out the tub. And I'll rinse out this tub, and I'll rinse out this, and I can even rinse out that. So that's really nice. And then I wipe it down because, again, those chemicals will slough off into the water, and they'll get on the tub, and then you put something else in, and guess what? Yes, you're getting it all contaminated. That's what I call it. So anyway, here's the wash, and I just fill it up, and it's pretty simple. It's pretty self-explanatory. So here I'm filling it up. Now, while that's filling up, this is the side where you spin, and this is a centrifuge. Now, I've already got my dish towels in here, and I do my dish towels separately always. Like I said, I don't ever use borax or anything like that. I just use the washing soda, and then I'll use distilled vinegar, and the washing soda is like a concentrated baking soda. That's the short summary of it. Basically, that's what it is. You can even make washing soda out of baking soda. You go research it. Maybe one day I'll make a video on it, but I just buy the washing soda separate. I don't use a lot. You don't need a lot. When you look at all those cluster groups of chemicals, once you sit down and you figure out exactly how much chemicals actually for the purpose of cleaning your laundry, you realize there's not a lot of that product in there. Now, some of it in certain laundry soaps are highly caustic. And again, what happens is when they mix together with water, they cause a reaction. It's called event-driven. Okay, so here I fill my tub, and I can fill it up much higher, but I just wanted to show you. I'm just taking this, and so you've got your timer for washer. You've got your soft setting, which is what happens is actually doesn't go slower, it just goes less, I think. And then you've got standard wash, and then you've got where it drains, and then you've got your spin over here for your centrifuge. So to wash, pretty easy peasy. Now I like this because I can open it up, which I like. And what I will do, and because it doesn't have an agitator, I'll use my glove and I'll go in there and I'll just kind of do an extra agitation, because that's how clothes gets clean. So it'll work this way, All right, and it's got a 15-minute timer, which is really nice. And then when you're done, you just push it to the right to drain, and it drains. And then what happens is once you're done draining, you just take and bring it over here, and it comes with this plastic mat to push things down. Right, and you got to have it steady, and I pulled it out in front, so that's why it's not centered. You really have to have it where it's not moving for the centrifuge, because you can wreck this centrifuge. Okay, so I leveled it out a little bit. So what you do is you just turn this on, and it starts to spin. Now you cannot open it while it's spinning, which is very good. That's very nice. But what you do is you can either set it to off, or if you open it, it's going to automatically shut off as far as it won't spin. So when I turn it off, what I want to show you, which is really nice, after 5 minutes, this stuff is almost dry. I love this. And actually, say I need a blouse or something for I'm going out that night, I'll take and wash it and I'll throw it in here to get it really dry. And then I'll put it in the dryer, because I don't like to use my dryer too much either, because of the amount of energy that's being used, right? I'm trying to reduce that. And how do you reduce it? Well, by getting your clothes drier. So this is a really nice tool too. And I don't mind the extra labor. I kind of like it. It's fine with me. And a lot of people will say, oh, I mind that. But I think it's wonderful, and it's really not that difficult. It's not that time consuming. You just take it and put one over here and over here. And again, you can even use the outlets if you wanted to, but I don't. To me, it's just kind of a waste of time. Okay, so now moving back, if you don't have sensitivities and you don't feel these chemicals when they're gone, okay, because I feel them when they're here, and when they're gone, my sensitivities go away, so I know that the chemicals have been removed. For you, for anyone that doesn't have that issue, I would have it a practice where you at least rinse your clothes, doing that process 3 times, and then do this process 3 times. Then you can wash them within your regular clothes. And the other thing is, the trick is, don't put too much clothes in at once. Now my towels are in it all at once, because I make sure, darn sure, I clean that whole thing out before I put in the next load of clothing. I rinse it and then I wipe it down, so there's no chemical residue in there. That's another tip, because chemicals that are in the laundry soaps, that are in these clothing, they're meant to try to stay in, and yet they're kind of like a, I wouldn't say sticky, but kind of like a resin, plastic resin. Okay, if you've ever seen plastic resin, it's kind of pulley. You know, if you ever heated up plastics, you'll see what I'm saying. So it's something like that. But anyway, so that's what I do, and then I wash them. Now, when I go to wash normal clothes, everyday clothes, I put my clothes that are what I call contaminated. In other words, when I go out and I'm out somewhere, when I come home, I take and I get my clothes off, I take a shower, and I put on my house clothes. And I put those clothes in a separate vat so that I can wash them. Now, you're probably not going to do that. And you're probably not going to vacuum them either, but I vacuum my clothing. I vacuum them right here. I vacuum all my clothes before I put them in the washer now. It just works better. And I put on my little plastic vest. I have a little plastic vest on right now. I don't want to show everything, but I've got this little plastic vest on to protect me from the chemicals coming off my clothes, because I'm so sensitive. Now, you may not want to do that. That may be overkill for you, but I'm telling you, there's that much chemical in your clothing. If you go at a restaurant and you go sit down and you get up and you walk away, you don't realize who has sat on that seat prior to you. And I can guarantee you that at least 80% of the time it's somebody that's wearing lots of chemicals on their clothes. And that's a problem for me, and I think it's going to eventually be a problem for our kids if we don't start to reduce these chemicals. So, but that's it for today. I'm just going to post it so that people can understand. I mean, it's not a pretty video, but you know, I live a regular life. I'm not a celebrity, and I just have a tough time doing this. In the first place, it takes time, but I like to share it because I really do realize how hard it is for everybody. And since I'm doing this already, I think this is going to help you quite a bit. So that's it for this video. Please like, subscribe, and share with friends and family. put a comment below. And as always, please stay safe and stay healthy. And I'll see you again next time here in Lisa's chat room.